Thank you, everybody, for coming. Moderator Pierce is away on business, so I'll be running the meeting tonight. So we have 3 items here tonight. Item number 3, the HDC Commission will not be here till next week. So if there are no questions, we're not going to cover that tonight. So we'll start with number 1, the solid waste appointment. Guy Gleistein, if you want to approach the microphone here. Thank you for volunteering, and we'll open it up to for questions. Does anybody have any questions? Did you come here for no reason tonight? Seeing none, you're not available next week, I guess, is that, or I don't think you'll have to be here unless
I believe I am.
you are? Okay. It just says NA, so.
Mr. Moderator, based on the fact that we don't have any questions for Mr. Gleistein, can we please let him know he does not need to be here on Monday?
You don't need to be here next week. Thank you, Representative Iacona. Thank you for coming, and thank you for volunteering. Sorry to bring you out tonight. Okay, item number 2, the MetroCog Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Patrick Carlton is here. So once he gets settled in, I'll open it up to questions. If you want to just give a little summary of what it is, and then we'll...
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Carlton. I'm with the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments, MetroCog for short. We are the regional planning agency for the 6 municipality Greater Bridgeport region. What's that? Oh, sure. Better? Good?
Yes.
Sorry about that. So we're the regional planning agency for the 6-town Greater Bridgeport region, which includes the town of Fairfield. Every 5 years, we put together a regional natural hazard mitigation plan for the region that specifically identifies risks and vulnerabilities that each municipality could face from a natural hazards, such as hurricanes, tropical storms, coastal storm surge, things of that nature. As mentioned, the plan is approved for every 5 years. So every 5 years, we're obligated to do an update. It is a FEMA-required plan if a municipality wants to access 2 things. One, if it wants to maintain its status in the Community Rating Systems program, and if it wants to access certain federal funding sources, should the town require those due to a natural hazard. Some of those grant programs are the Pre-Disaster Mitigation Program, the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, and the Natural Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Basically, overview of the plan is the main focus is to reduce the loss of life and property by lessening the impacts of natural disasters. We went through a thorough planning process since about the first of the year. We actually worked with town staff. We also held a community resilience building workshop. We were attended by 30 members of various organizations, but town staff, boards and commissions, residents. That was held on February 26th. That's what helped inform the plan. We had a public draft ready for public comment. We had public meetings, one of which was held at the Fairfield Regional Fire School. That was back in April. We had a community survey that was posted on municipal websites, so the town of Fairfield's website, but also the Connecticut Post and other news outlets. So we went through an exhaustive public participation process, and I'm here before you today to seek local adoption so that the town could move forward with adopting the plan and be eligible for the CRS program and for any federal funding sources should they become available. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, thank you. I think Representative Lopez.
Hi, Erin Lopez, District 2. Of course, in Fairfield, we worry about flooding and storms and things like that, but, you know, there's another whole area of town with where we worry about trees falling down, especially, you know, even just a bad windstorm can take out trees. Was there any talk about kind of making that its own separate thing, as flooding is, you know, such a big issue in this town? But it seems as we get more and worse storms, trees falling and power going out has been a really big issue.
Absolutely, and the plan does address all natural hazards. Obviously, we know Fairfield is very susceptible to coastal flooding, and that seems to be some residents' biggest concerns, but we do take into consideration storm damage, utility issues with the utility companies and things like that, so that is definitely addressed in the plan. And just, I should have mentioned this earlier, and I apologize, but there is a list of mitigation actions that the town could propose to take to address some of these issues, and some of those issues do reflect tree trimming, tree maintenance programs, things like that, some of which I believe are ongoing at this point, but that the town should continue to pursue as it moves along.
Sorry. Representative Vergara?
Thank you. Jill Vergara, District 7. With some of those action steps that you just mentioned, does the town get funding? Do we get help in taking those action steps?
So there are some mitigation actions that the town could seek funding for, some of which could be funded by those various federal programs that I had mentioned earlier. In other cases, there are already, some of the actions are already ongoing initiatives that are currently ongoing, maybe through town operating dollars or capital programs or things like that. But there's no way that any action in this plan can't be, grant funding can't be sought out for them. They definitely can through those various programs. Whether, the town it's accepted, the application is that's a whole other story, but there are definitely some programs at the federal level, at the FEMA level, and even at the state level that the town could apply for.
Does MetroCog help with the guidance through those options?
Absolutely. We work with the town very closely, and if we do see a federal funding program, we'll always bring it to the town's attention, and if they wanted us to assist with helping develop a grant application or reviewing or providing any technical assistance, any GIS data that might go into the application, we're definitely there to assist.
I don't know if this is pertinent, so I apologize in advance, but I do know people who have had problems getting money from FEMA. And I was wondering whether MetroCog provides any assistance for people who are in that position, because there are quite a few families here in Fairfield experiencing that.
I definitely, as this is a hazard mitigation plan, I think it's a pertinent topic. So I will just ask, if I could ask one question, do you mean for individual homeowners or for the municipality as a?
Yes, for individual homeowners.
Yeah, that's kind of tough for us. I mean, we could try to assist the town in doing what we can and seeing what's out there and what resources are available and maybe help with connections and contacts. But as far as applying for individual home ownerships or on their behalf, that's something that we can't undertake. So,
Thank you.
Representative Herron?
Hi, Doreen Herron, District 9. I'm sorry if it's already in there, but if we do go forward with the mitigation plan, are we bound to fund, if we can't find federal funding or other funding, are we bound to do?
no, it's just a roadmap. These are all proposed mitigation actions. There's no, you won't get penalized for not performing any of the mitigation actions. It's just there to help the town basically see through and understand what's there. But there's no binding requirement for that.
Thank you.
Representative Siebert?
Joe Siebert, District 5. It looks like the scope, I want to confirm, for your organization has to do with coastal flooding only, or would other areas inland, like what we've been dealing with the Rooster River, would that be in scope?
That's the entire plan takes into consideration all natural hazards, including inland flooding. We definitely know the issues along the Rooster River, the Mill River. There's a lot of information in this updated plan about the September 25th, 2018 rainstorm that happened last year that caused substantial flooding not only in parts of Fairfield but Trumbull, all the way up to Monroe. So that's definitely in there, and we do understand that those we need to take some, or the town needs to take some mitigation actions to improve those issues. So that is in there. Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Gerber?
Yeah, hi, Bill Gerber, District 2. I'm feeling a little like I'm not really understanding exactly what we're. This is 2 pages that we're looking at tonight, right?
You should have had a link and a copy of the plan.
Okay.
It's a pretty lengthy.
That's what I'm missing.
Document, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm wondering, I
That's just a brief summary, a very high-level summary of
Okay,
what's there.
that's why I was confused. So are we voting on the plan next week? On funding this plan? I'm not... But we're voting on accepting this plan. So is the plan going to be presented to us by someone from the town? Or?
Well, I'm here to answer any questions on the plan. We submitted the plan as part of the record for this evening. I was under the impression that it was going to be reviewed and looked through. We also had substantial public outreach throughout the process. So are you looking for a formal plan presentation? Is that what you're looking for?
I guess so. I'm sorry, I didn't even look at the plan. I
Our
didn't
packet
realize
was
that-
only 15 pages, and your plan looks like it's 30.
Did anyone bring the plan with them? So none of us are really prepared.
So it's a page and a
to-
half.
Yeah. Where was the link? I'm sorry.
I provided it with all the information that I was asked to provide. I provided the two-page summary and a link to the plan as well.
Okay, so. Yeah, so I guess we're not really prepared to talk about it, unfortunately.
Representative Iacono?
Pam Iacono, District 9. Hi, Patrick. Can you, did this have to go to any bodies before it came to us? What's the legislative process here in terms of you needing approval?
From local approval?
Yes.
Or for us, we just need local approval from the local legislative body that adopts the plan for each municipality. Then FEMA formally adopts the plan, and that means the town is eligible for, one, the CRS program and for federal funding. So it's just local adoption from each of our member communities to adopt the plan.
Gotcha. And then in terms of the mitigation plan itself, what department heads did you work with within the town in terms of formulating this?
Worked with various departments: planning, engineering, public works. I think economic development was involved at some point. I don't have the list of everyone we involved with, but it was a pretty
Extensive group of
big,
people in
comprehensive,
terms from the
yes,
town that
yes.
helped you put
Yeah.
this all together. And then what's your time frame for approval?
So there's the only time frame, once the town adopts the plan, they'll be eligible to access any federal funding programs that are eligible for this plan down the road. Right now, none of those grant programs are actually soliciting new applications. But, obviously, for the town to be enrolled in the CRS program, and obviously that's a big deal in the town as coastal flooding and flooding is an issue, it's important that the town maintains an active hazard mitigation plan. So while there's no specific time frame, I would just have to urge that you all consider that.
And do we have an active mitigation plan right now?
So the current mitigation plan for 2014 to 2019 expired in July, but this plan was approved. So it was approved by FEMA. It just now, for you to access any funding issues, and to continue to be enrolled, just have to accept this as the new update. So it's
Okay,
just an
so this
acceptance.
technically is a formality.
Yeah.
So we have a plan, it's in place, we've updated it through all of these town department heads. FEMA has,
There has to be a local legislative approval.
right, I
but
understand that.
yes.
So I'm just walking everybody through the whole process here. So we had a plan, it's expired, you worked with all the appropriate
Yes.
parties within the town to get buy-in, to get approval. FEMA has accepted it. The last piece of the puzzle is for the legislative body to adopt it so that we can access grants. Is that a good summation?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and if we want to read about the plan and understand about the plan, then we can go to a link that's online. That, for some people, it's not in their packet this evening, but we could access that between now and Monday.
Yes, and I apologize. As I mentioned, I did send out the link, and I'm sorry that it didn't get to all of you.
Okay, and then are you available on Monday if somebody has questions between now and then that they want to ask you about before we take action on this on Monday evening?
Yes, I was planning to attend the Monday, September 23rd meeting, so I will be in attendance.
Thank you very much for all of that clarification.
Representative Woke?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jay Wolk, District 5. So I just want to make everybody clear, and I want to thank you very much for your great work. It really is needed, considering what's going on with climate change. I want everybody to know, the Rooster River situation is really not great, not only from our town. What I learned by going to not only the press conference, but the meetings that were held here in town about the Rooster River, it is a real problem. It hasn't been addressed. It's starting to be addressed, which is great. My thing is, so what I learned is that the water that's going into the Rooster River goes all the way up into Shelton and comes down to us. We're affected by the Rooster River where I live. So this plan is to try to mediate, try to solve the problem of all this flooding from the river?
So the plan identifies mitigation actions that the town, every town within our region can take to help with those issues. I understand where you're coming from, that the Rooster River watershed, all the water comes off of, impervious surfaces and other places, it runs down the river, and it just so happens that some of the downstream flooding, that's what happens. So what the plan does is it addresses, it provides mitigation actions that the town could take and that other towns could take to hopefully improve that for everyone. So yes, it does look into inland flooding, and we understand that the Rooster River is a big problem. So.
And garbage is a big problem in the river, which creates the flooding. Even when the town tried to fix that problem, putting screens, it just didn't work either. So, all right, thank you very much.
Representative Herron?
Hi, Doreen Herron, District 9. Have any of the other towns approved it yet?
We've gotten approval from the town of Easton, the town of Monroe, and the town of Trumbull. And the town of Stratford will be voting on it, I believe, the first week of October, and the city of Bridgeport will be voting on it in October as well.
Representative Hurley.
Michael Hurley, RTM District 10. So as I understand it, MetroCog is a consortium of several towns. What would happen if Fairfield didn't approve it, but these other towns did? That means that we simply wouldn't have access to any of those grant monies for any of the items included in the plan as they relate to the town of Fairfield?
The town of Fairfield would not and the town itself, and even some programs that are available for individual homeowners, such as the pre-disaster mitigation, the flood mitigation assistance, and the hazard mitigation grant program, you would not be eligible to apply for those funding sources. And also, if the town does not have a natural hazard mitigation plan adopted, there is an issue with the CRS program. So those people who are enrolled in the CRS program could face issues if the town does not have a adopted plan.
Representative Mahoney.
Hi, Mike Mahoney from District 1. I just have one quick question. So I'm up near the Merritt Parkway. Does your group oversee some of the work that the state is doing? Because one of the things that I've seen and heard from my neighbors is excessive water coming off the Merritt ever since they've done some construction. And I was wondering, do these two groups talk together, or who's overseeing what they're doing so that excess water isn't actually draining into?
That would most likely be a State Department of Transportation project. So we have no involvement in that, unfortunately.
But you're mitigation. So I was just kind of wondering if you guys are not overseeing something, because there's a lot of projects being done by the state, but we don't really know what impact it's having on our town.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't believe I've heard of any of those issues, but now that you've brought them to my attention, I'll definitely see if I can find out any information for you.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
No further questions. You'll be here next week. If you could provide me with that link before you go so we can get it distributed to everybody before the meeting next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the HDC? Jill's more than happy to answer them, or we can wait till next week. Seeing none, we can break up. What, Mr. Hurley? Mr. Hurley, you have a question?
Could we just get a quick update on it?
Sure.
Jill Regards, District 7. If you remember, in March, we had the HDC before us, and they were asking, they had a recommendation that we redesignate a property on Tungus Hill. It was 554 Tungus Hill Road, and we went through the approval process. So it was added to a list of properties that have a special historical significance. In the Historic District Handbook, they're already listed in Appendix E. One problem that the Vice Chair of the HDC raised was that all of the properties that have been designated in the past weren't listed in the ordinance itself. So there's, in Chapter 26 of our code, it lists the Historic District Commission and all of their responsibilities. It's also supposed to list all of the properties that have ever been designated. So what we did was just take the list from Appendix E and listed all of those properties in the ordinance. So that's Chapter 26, and it's section it's 26-7.2, the designated historic properties. We just recently designated 554 Tungus Hill Road, so we should all know about that. But the others that had been done before were 1520 Bronson Road, 506 Jennings Road, 5210 Congress Street, 230 Umpqua Road, 449 Mill Plain Road, 1135 Mill Hill Road, 170 Pequot Avenue, 375 Warner Hill Road, 12 Ermine Street. And these are all properties that the owners were agreed upon this designation.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, that's a wrap. Let's break up into our committees. Thank you.